Donald Trump's tariffs are becoming a huge freaking problem for his party as we get closer to the midterm elections, in part because Trump has been trying for a while to convince Americans that his tariffs somehow don't raise prices, even though they definitely raise prices.
Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe it.
How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing.
But despite Trump's denial of reality with a straight face, it appears that he actually does know how tariffs work, when it suits him to know, of course. Last week, in response to the rising cost of beef, Trump's big idea for driving down prices was to drop tariffs on beef. Because, again, tariffs raise prices for consumers, as we all know, including him. But in the same week that Trump is saying he will lower those tariffs on beef, he is also jacking up tariffs on all sorts of things from one of our country's biggest trading partners, Canada. After trade talks collapsed last week, this weekend, Trump slapped new 50% tariffs on hundreds of Canadian goods. And yesterday, Canada retaliated with tariffs of up to 50% on hundreds of American goods. That means Americans should expect higher prices on everything, from cars to toilet paper, lots of other things. That is going to be hard for Republicans to defend, but it's going to be especially hard in the states that border Canada, like Minnesota, a state that imports about $7 billion more from Canada than it exports to Canada every year. How are Republicans in states like Minnesota going to justify all of this to voters? I'm really not sure. And they don't seem to be sure either. Here was Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota, Lisa DeMuth, yesterday, having a really hard time answering the question, where do you stand on the president's tariffs?
You know, tariffs definitely have a purpose, and my hope as we look forward, even with Canada, is that those talks would resume and we could make things more affordable for Minnesota as we're looking just at that bordering piece too. Tariffs definitely have a purpose, but I think that the talks need to continue or restart again as it is.
Okay. If you're in Minnesota, I don't know what that means. But joining me now is Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She is the Democratic candidate for governor. Okay, let me start by asking you this. It's great to see you. Help us understand what impact Trump's trade war with Canada is going to have on the people of Minnesota. How are the people you're running to represent, you represent now, going to experience this firsthand?
Jen, I can't tell you how devastating this is, particularly on our farmers and ranchers. So Minnesota is fourth in the country for ag exports, and all of our exports, including ag, are now 13% down. It's like $3.4 billion. And this is a big problem because, especially having just finished a 9-county tour in rural Minnesota and to farms, one farmer called me, said to me a few months ago, it's like a perfect storm of ugly because their export markets are devastated. Because, of course, they've cut off with retaliatory tariffs. And then their input costs, like fertilizer and things like that, not just from the tariffs, but the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, are also hit. So he basically has created this just horror show in terms of the Midwestern states and those bordering Canada. For us, Canada eclipses our trade with Canada, our number 2, 3, and 4 combined. So when you look at these states, as I'm listening to you talking about Senate, governor races, like Iowa, like Michigan, like Wisconsin, and all the way across the northern tier. It's not just farming, it's also small businesses. $1,700 a year for the average family in America just last year, and it's even going to go up more if he continues this. So he just keeps going, and the people now understand what's happening, and it is a major contributor to why costs are up so high.
A lot of his policies are putting Republican candidates in very difficult positions as they try to explain them. This is happening across the country. I just played your opponent, your Republican opponent, Lisa DeMuth. Can you explain what she was trying to say? Do you understand her position at all? Or what's the difference between the two of you?
I don't know which farmer she's talking to. because she is so afraid of pissing off Donald Trump. They have been, the Republicans in our state are literally running as rubber stamps to Donald Trump. That is not just on tariffs. It's also on embracing the big, beautiful bill. She said that's been good for Minnesota. Well, look at these Medicaid cuts and the effect on rural hospitals. She has embraced the war in Iran. Look at what has happened there with not just the loss of life, but also the effect when it comes to price spikes and the like. So that's what's going on here. And especially when it comes to tariffs, I don't care if you're a farmer, if you're a rancher, like the cattle rancher I was with yesterday, or whether it is a small business or just someone that's trying to buy a stroller for their kid. You see the effects of these tariffs every single day. And Americans, maybe when this all started, they weren't as focused on what tariffs do and what they are, but they are tariff taxes on Americans, and they are especially hitting the Midwest and the upper Midwest, and the voters know it, and he just won't stop. Supreme Court tells him I'm illegal. I was there. I went to the argument. I watched Gorsuch as he declared in that booming voice that he thought this was unconstitutional. He didn't give up. Then Trump goes and looks for another place. And what the people of our state want, they want a governor that's going to stand up for them and not just do what Donald Trump wants or try to curry favor with him.
We only have about a minute left, so let me ask you one that's been on the minds of a lot of voters, which is just about mail-in ballots. So many people rely on this. There have been a number of rulings by courts as well over the last couple of days. It's pretty confusing. What are you telling voters in Minnesota about their rights and whether they should plan on participating in mail-in voting?
You know, they have a right to mail in their ballot, and more people in our state, we have the highest, if not one of the top voter turnouts every single election. And some of them go on election day. We have same-day registration, but a number of them are mailing in their ballots. And I especially tell them now, mail in those ballots. Do it early. Make sure you vote. We have early voting, September 18th. Information, my website, amyklobuchar.com. And just make sure that you are voting and you do it early, because we know Donald Trump is threatening these elections. We saw it in that speech he gave in prime time. And I'm concerned that he is not going to stand true to our democracy. So to me, the answer is, no matter what courts are saying in different states, that what you do is you have your right to mail in your ballot, do it, and vote like you believe you care about our democracy, because this guy is trying to tear it down. Our state fair starts tomorrow, Jen, the biggest state fair in the country, because we do not include Texas because they're open 30 days. I'm sure Tellerico would disagree. But the point is that we're talking democracy in action there. And a lot of our message is going to be make sure you vote and vote early.
All right. Have fun at that fair. Senator Amy Klobuchar, thank you as always for joining me.
I'll eat a cheese curd for you, Jen. I'll eat a cheese curd for you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Have fun.